Mom found me on her doorstep 25 years ago, and last Tuesday, my biological mother showed up once I was successful. I am Serena Walsh, 32 years old, an interior architect building my own firm in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I need to tell you something about families like ours. The ones held together not by blood but by choice, by open doors, by women who said yes when everything was easier to walk away from. My mother, Carol, 61, a retired schoolteacher, found me wrapped in a blanket on a cold November morning and never once looked back. She built me a life. What she didn't know was I had been expecting this day for longer than she realized. The woman standing on Mom's doorstep was smiling like she belonged there. She did not. She introduced herself at the door, my biological mother, Diane Pruitt, 54, a woman with practiced soft eyes and an apology she had clearly rehearsed. She used the word regret 4 times in one conversation, but that wasn't the worst part. My closest friend, Tasha Monroe, 33, an event coordinator visiting that weekend, sat across from Diane on Mom's couch and watched her the way you watch something that doesn't quite add up. Diane cried, she reached for my hand, she talked about how young she had been, how frightened, how alone. She was good at it, I will give her that. Then her eyes drifted, not to my face, to the regional architecture magazine sitting open on Mom's coffee table, my firm profile on page 12. She asked if I owned my firm outright or had business partners. I let Diane talk for another hour. She revealed she had been following my career for a few years. She said it like it was tender, like watching from a distance was the same as being present. I asked her one question, then I stayed quiet for a reason. I asked her how she had found us. Her answer didn't add up. She said a friend had mentioned my name, but the magazine had only published 3 weeks ago and her friend, she said, didn't read that kind of publication. Small things. But I collect small things. That evening after Diane left, Mom said nothing for a long time. She washed the dishes. She dried her hands, then she walked to her bedroom closet and pulled out a box I had never once seen in 32 years of living in that house. The box had been sitting in that closet since the night Mom brought me home. Inside, one document at a time, she laid everything on the kitchen table, the original abandonment paperwork, a hospital record, a police report filed the morning I was found, and at the very bottom, folded carefully in a piece of cream paper, a handwritten letter. Mom had written it to me that first morning, before she even knew if she could keep me. Before anyone had said yes. What Diane didn't know was, Mom had written my name at the top of that letter before the ink on anything else was even dry. I picked it up. I held it against my chest and stood in that kitchen without moving for a long time. I was still holding it when my phone rang. It was Tasha. Serena, she said quietly. I found something about Diane. Tasha had spent 2 days quietly searching public records and community boards, not because I asked her to, but because she knew I wouldn't. She found a pattern. Diane had done this before. 2 other biological children she had given up years ago. 2 other moments of reappearance, both timed within months of those children receiving public recognition or financial milestones. 2 other women who had opened their doors because they wanted, just once, to believe the story Diane was telling. 2 other children, 2 other arrivals, but that wasn't the worst part. I stayed on the phone with Tasha in silence for a moment, then she said it. She already asked your mom if you have a will, Serena, 3 days ago. If this story is reaching something inside you, stay with me. What comes next, I need you here for every part of it. 2 mornings later, there was a knock at Mom's front door. It was our neighbor, Miss Evelyn Grant, 74, a woman who had lived in the house next door for 40 years and remembered everything about everything. She had seen Diane's car parked outside for 3 consecutive days, and something about it had bothered her since the first morning. Miss Grant had been there the November morning Mom found me. She described what she saw in quiet, precise detail. Then she said something that stopped the room. She had been standing at her kitchen window that morning and had seen the woman who left me, and the description she gave matched Diane exactly. I heard exactly what Diane had said to someone on her phone the previous afternoon, overheard through the open window. She's not her real mother, she's just the woman who kept her. I stayed quiet for a reason. Miss Grant reached into her cardigan pocket and placed a small folded paper on Mom's kitchen table. I wrote it down, she said. That same morning, I always had a feeling. Miss Grant's folded paper was a journal entry, dated the exact morning of November 4th, 32 years ago. Written in careful cursive, it described the woman she saw leaving something on the doorstep. The build, the coat, the way she moved without looking back, every detail matched Diane precisely. I sat at Mom's kitchen table with 3 things in front of me. Miss Grant's journal entry, Tasha's research, printed, dated, sourced, Mom's box, every document she had ever kept. Every piece was now in one folder, and what Diane didn't know was, she had handed me most of it herself, through the questions she asked, the timeline she accidentally revealed, the friend whose name didn't match her story. I had said nothing to Diane about any of it, not one word. Then my phone buzzed, a message from Diane, breezy, warm, cert. Can't wait for your opening Friday. Save me a seat near the front. Friday arrived. My firm's opening event, everything I had built, every late night, every scholarship application filled out at Mom's kitchen table, every client I had earned one at a time, gathered in one room. Diane arrived early. She was dressed beautifully, but that wasn't the worst part. Diane was moving through the room, introducing herself to my colleagues, my clients, my team as my mother. I watched her from across the room, a glass of water in my hand, completely still. Mom stood quietly near the window in the corner, steady, present, wearing the blue cardigan she always wore to things that mattered. I set my glass down. I walked to the podium. The room went quiet, all of it, all at once, the way rooms do when something real is about to happen. Everything I built, I said, started with the woman who opened her door for me when someone else closed theirs. I had stayed quiet through every visit, every tear, every carefully rehearsed performance for a reason. And the room was about to understand why. I did not say Diane's name. I talked about a November morning, a doorstep, a cold that had settled into the street before sunrise. A woman who opened her door and chose, without hesitation, without paperwork, without any promise of what came next, to say yes. Then I unfolded Mom's letter. I read 3 lines. The ones she had written to me before she even knew if the world would let her keep me. The room was silent in the way that only happens when something true has been spoken out loud. I looked up. Diane's corner of the room was empty. She had picked up her bag and walked out before I finished the second line. Diane did not return after that evening. 1 week later, I mailed her a single envelope. Inside, a copy of the original abandonment record. Miss Grant's journal entry dated and signed, Tasha's research printed and organized, and Mom's letter a photocopy because the original belongs to me. No note, no explanation, no anger. Just the truth, documented, quietly returned to the person who had created it. What Diane never knew was, the doorstep she left me on was the best thing she ever gave me. I used to wonder what I had done to be left behind. Now I understand being left was never the story, being found was. The right door always opens for you, even when the wrong one closes first. If this story moved something real in you, tell me in the comments, have you ever been chosen by someone who didn't have to choose you? She left me on a doorstep once. I sent her back the truth and kept everything else for myself.